Hey, what's up, Massoud? How's it going, man?
Good man, how you doing?
Good, good. So thanks for joining this episode. For those who are listening, the intention behind this episode was to really have conversations with different people and really get their thoughts on different things, their interests, their ideas. Now, it's really interesting because my love for conversations and for talking, debating really goes way back with Massoud. I've known him for 15 years almost, and we used to have hours on end conversations back in eighth grade, ninth grade about many different things, and that's kind of where this all started around that time. And anyways, man, thanks for joining. How's everything been? How's your life been in quarantine? Let's start there. How are you holding up?
Yeah, it's actually pretty cool. Like I started off thinking that this is not sustainable for me because I'm a social character, at least from what I understand. I like seeing people, I like being, but then I realized after this new life was kind of like designed, I was like, you know what? It's not a bad idea to just not do most of the things that we used to do before. Yeah, no, I still get to meet people, but it is in a better way, I assume. It's not, the idea of office, as good as it is, it's kind of outdated with the new generation, in my opinion. So working from home hasn't been that bad. Of course, there are limitations in some way, but like it's not that bad, honestly.
Okay,
Everything's
so
good.
overall you're finding it better, or you're coping with it better than when you were back in the office. Like you think this is something sustainable, right? Like this is going to continue, or do you think it's going to be kind of like half with people going into the office and some people working from home?
Well, it's always a gradient, right? Like, it's never going to be the way where everybody sits at home and work, because not everyone can have a similar type of job. You gotta be sometimes there. Even like in terms of work right now, sometimes it would be more appreciated to have face-to-face meetings to get things go a bit faster than online. But it gets the work done, at least on our end, which is mainly, we do our work mainly with laptop, and humans come secondary to that, because I cannot get access to anyone I want on a laptop, and I don't really need to see anyone's face in person, I mean. But yeah, what was your question?
I don't know what the actual question was, but I just wanted to see how you're holding up, because for me personally, it's been good, because obviously, like, I have my own schedule. In between meetings, I go out, I take a little walk, I come back. So it's been good from that end. And ironically, I've also been a lot more fit than I was. Obviously,
Yeah,
like
same,
with a
same.
lot more exercises, right? You've been exercising a lot?
Yeah, man. Like I actually work out more now versus pre-COVID. COVID is like this moment in time, pre-COVID and after COVID. I actually work out now because I can work during the day. I can work during my lunch break, like from 12 to 1, which is my workout time right now. But and something I would never have done when I was in the office. Like I would come home tired, I would eat, and then commuting, and like, the idea of commuting right now, it sounds so strange to me. Like, why would you spend, 8 a.m. packed in a subway talking to people, whereas, you wake up right now, drink your coffee, go on the laptop, do your work actually, and do it even better because you're more focused. You're by your own. Nobody's distracting you. Nobody's telling you about some story of you know what I mean? Like, they don't distract you with some
commuting for sure is something that I don't miss at all. That's for sure. And then another thing is, like you said, I mean, with the internet and this platform that we have and all that infrastructure, there is so much more capability to do things remotely from anywhere that you want. And that's the beautiful thing about it. Now people can go and be where they want to be, spend time with their family, and be at a place where they create their own productive kind of space to work,
exactly. It gives the power to the people, kind of, because, by the way, I just want to say, I don't dress like this at home. I'm just doing this for the interview, right? Just to stay real. But yeah, it gives the power to people, and you're able to kind of create your own office, your own work culture, and your own timetable. I was speaking to my director the other day, and he was like, he had a very good point of view. He's like, as long as the work is done, I don't really care on how you do it, on why you do it, or things like that. As long as everything is in order, I'm cool with it. And I think that's where the millennial sort of leadership will continue, in my opinion. I think home office will be the future of office. Like, it frees up many real estate for people, for businesses. It opens up many opportunities for people to be able to work on a what do you call it, like on an international basis, on a global basis. You don't have to be limited to your city. You don't have to be limited to your commute. You don't need to come pay high rents in, for example, downtown Toronto to have a downtown job, because you can just do it from whatever, Whitby or whatever, some city that you are in. But yeah.
And it's breaking boundaries, man. Yesterday I was reading this article. There was this new term that I learned. It was called netizens. It's like citizens, but it's netizens, like it's citizens of the internet.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So we're all like citizens of the internet now. There is no boundaries. And like you said, like international, right? We can be anywhere. And as long as we are contributing to the bottom line and achieving the results that we set out to achieve, then like you said, your director doesn't care when you start working or what you're doing, how you're doing it, as long as the bottom result is there. That's interesting. Now, I just want to kind of transition to something that you talked about, millennial leadership. You mentioned that's an interesting term. So obviously, you went from studying finance at U of T, Broadman Commerce. Now you're working, as a data consultant in a data field, data related job. Can you talk more about that? Why did you choose that field in particular? Is it because of your interests, or what are the reasons around that?
Yeah, like I studied, just to give background, I studied finance and economics in U of T Rodman School, and I got a job at Home Depot as a financial analyst. So basically forecasting sales and margin metrics and coming up in ways on how to improve margin and how to increase sales and things like that. Basically financial analysis to the core. But during that job, I started to learn how to work with analytics, basically how to come up with better forecasts using tools such as Alteryx, Tableau, Excel, obviously, but mainly Alteryx at the time, where I was building a lot of workflows and automating many jobs. And while I was doing that, I realized I am pretty much cutting the exact branch that I'm sitting on, which is financial analysis, and I'm pretty much I'm giving the work off to technically robots, software robots, to do it for me. And that's where I kind of like clicked in my head. I'm like, you know what? Data is going to be the future. Information is going to be the new oil. It's going to be new gold. Data is where we are able to actually create so many opportunities. And in order for me to be able to make this impact, because millennials love making impact, is to be able to understand data. And that's how I pivoted my way. And I always tell people, like, don't be afraid of pivoting. Don't be afraid of using certain opportunities as an inflection point in your life, because you never know what's that going to bring. Like, I never knew I was going to be in data. I hated programming, now I'm learning programming. Now I'm learning Python, learning SQL, all these things. I'm still not a programmer. I don't consider myself somebody who codes, but I understand it now. Now somebody can, they wouldn't be able to tell me something that I don't know in some way, And yeah, so I looked into it, and I found this job as a data consultant in CIBC. I've been working over the past year and a half, and it's been a great opportunity for me to learn so many different things, man. Like when I was at Home Depot, my exposure to data was very limited because they would just give it to me. Mm-hmm. Now I went one step ahead, and now I understand where data comes from. Now I understand the importance of data quality, data consistency, data verifiability, and basically data management. And being able to have that perspective will give you a tool for the next step, whatever that next step is going to be. And I think I recommend people to look into it.
Definitely good point, man. Like, data is the new oil, like you mentioned, and if you're able to figure out patterns and tell stories within the data that you're analyzing, that's very powerful, like you mentioned. Because so go ahead.
Yeah, like at the end of the day, all what businesses are trying to do is understand what customer needs and provide that product or innovation or whatever for the customer, for their consumer, basically, in the market. And what data does is basically helps us understand where humans are coming from, and teaches us on how behavior patterns affect everything and affect the business and things like that. And you're able then to create a more innovative product, a more dynamic business, a more dynamic model. And yeah, like, think of it this way. Remember, I don't know when it was on Instagram, everybody started posting it. It's like the end of the year or something, where Spotify had this thing where they would analyze your music taste and give you a report. That is pretty much data analysis on your customer. Like, they are tracking every single behavior that you have on Spotify, at least you hope on Spotify only, and give you a report on who you are, pretty much. Like, Spotify knows your music taste better than you know your music taste. And that, it starts with Spotify, but it's going to span across every company. Every company will need to be able to approach this sort of strategy to be able to understand their customer at a unique, specific level to you, not to a mass person. Like, the mass is no more the mass. The mass is now a collective of individuals that you can understand them and exactly approach them in that specific way. That's what, like, Facebook and Instagram are doing.
That's a good point. You're able to tell a lot of good stories from data. That's for sure. So that's really good. You're in this field now. You're learning more about data, about Python. Just digging a little deeper into that. How much are you focusing on becoming a technical person within that, or actually how conscious are you about that regarding whether you want to be very technical around it, or do you want to really figure out what the bigger picture is? Because let's say in my own experience, I also, go in and I study, let's say, something regarding Python. Then you go do some process mining, you do another language. But then after that, do you think there's a way that we can consolidate all of this, elevate ourselves above it, and see the bigger picture and try to really be the manager of this whole ecosystem rather than diving deep into the details?
Yeah, it's true. I mean, it's very personal. Some people would find themselves more technical than others. I've never really found myself a technical person, even since I was a kid. Like, I'm not good at doing technical stuff, but what I'm good at is understanding technical stuff and being able to come up with strategies on how to be able to do things better, which is pretty much what you said, is standing on top of your knowledge and creating wisdom out of it. Because the transition of information is the way it goes. It starts with data, and you would hope that you turn data into information. And in that information, you would hope that you would turn it into knowledge. And ultimately, that knowledge will have to turn into wisdom. So what you're pretty much trying to do is to be able to gather as much knowledge. Like, even in the work that I do, for example, I'm the data analytic visual guy that I create visual analytics, basically. At least that's a portion of what I do. But on the other hand, I got an understanding of data governance. I got an understanding on SaaS and how it works and things like that are not in the scope of my field, because you will never be able to come up with a great strategy without understanding the ins and outs of every other business. And again, you're not the technical guy. You're not the guy. Like, look at, for example, Hitchcock, right? And as one of my role models. Like, he, as a filmmaker, maybe he was not a good cinematographer. Maybe he was not a good sound guy. But he had enough understanding in his own head about every different aspect of making a movie or making a great film, like Rear Window or something like that, that he would be able to picture the movie in his head before it would actually come out, because he would understand the limitations of the camera guy. He would understand the limitations of the sound guy. He would understand the limitations of lighting, and these are important, because without those understanding, I always say, like, I don't know if, no, I didn't say that. I saw a tweet, I think it was either Kanye or I don't know who it was. It was, art is free. Design is giving shape to that freedom. So if you want to be a great designer, you need to pretty much shape up your knowledge and create some sort of framework that you want to work with and go ahead with it. Because at the end of the day, then you're just a free-flowing guy. And in this world that we live in, you need design. You need design in order to go ahead.
Interesting. So basically, art is very free, and you take all of that and you mold it, customize it to what your reality wants, your design is like, right?
And that's why, if you look at it this way, the greatest artists of all time a full time that people have a lot of respect for and their work lasts along, are at the same time great designers as well. They're not strictly artists like Maya Angelou, like who else was it? For example, Da Vinci. You know, these are designers. These are architects. These are people that can create useful design out of art. It's just not a random painting, because that guy can make a building out of that and you know, create a whole Renaissance movement right after all these designs. You know what I mean?
That's interesting. Yeah. So Renaissance. That's a good transition. I wanted to ask you about this too. So you right now do you consider yourself a financial analyst? Do you consider yourself a data consultant? And we're going to get to some other things that you do as well regarding the art and everything too. But what do you really see yourself as? Or do you think that we can be multiple things in this day and age and we're not restricted to one specific label?
Oh, absolutely. I think it's actually a good question you're asking now. Maybe we used to say this, at least I used to say this at least 5 years ago, that we are going through a renaissance. But now I think everyone can see it now. Like, look at it. Like, everyone that you know is right now trying to find a hobby, or they're right now on the gram promoting some shit. Like, sorry for using profanity.
No, that's cool.
And they're doing different things, and I think it is the time where the internet is. This quote is not for myself. I forgot where it's coming from, but the internet is the new Roman Empire. It's where everybody is able to be whoever they want to be, and I think it's a great moment in history where, yeah, it is some sort of a renaissance in my opinion, because I don't consider myself a data guy. I don't consider myself a financial analyst or a finance or economics guy. I have understanding of these, and I can work and I can make money out of them, out of these skills that I have. But just because I can make money out of them, that doesn't define me. That doesn't define who I am. I am just able to monetize these skills in the world that we currently live in. Maybe in the next 10 years, I can make money out of something else, you know?
That's an interesting point. So then, talking about the internet and the way that it provides us with these sets of skills that we're able to diversify them all across. So the internet is a tool though, right? And I think that people who are wise enough and are opportunistic enough would take advantage of all the things that this is offering. But unfortunately, there's a large group of people as well who are just using the internet as a platform to consume and, you know, spend their time not doing anything productive with it too, right? So that's also another thing. But overall, I do see your point that we're going towards a renaissance age. People are doing a lot of different things. And let's say with you right now, you're also doing something that's related to, you know, fashion, and you're creating a lot of different things, whether it's paintings or clothing and things like that. How's that going?
It's going well. I think it's for me, at least in my experience, I never looked at it as a new job or a new thing. It was escape for me. It is escape for me. Basically, it's escape from the box that society or you know, work culture or career puts you in, that you're this person. So I'm like, okay, fine, I'll be this person. I'll make money if you need me to make money. I'll get the credit score that you want me to have in this world, but I'm going to still do every other thing that I still want to do, whether I make money out of it or not. And like fashion, for example, has been something, I don't know how deep are we going to get into it, but it is an interest of mine since childhood. It is something that I've always had an attention of. And now that I'm able to stand on my own feet and, you know, have a perspective on things, and with the understanding that I have in banking, in technology, in finance, how can I bring all of that into a piece of sweater, for example? How can I bring all of that into a pair of shoes, you know? And I recommend people to have their own escapes as well, because living in a box will kind of limit you as who you are as a person.
Interesting. So escape, and when you say escape, what do you mean by that? Is it like, are you trying to balance out the left and right side of your brain and kind of like have something where you're using a lot of analytics and logic and reason, and then move towards something else that's a lot more free flow, and you're not really using those departments, but you're rather like using a lot of your creativity? Is that what you mean by escape? Or
maybe it's not a conscious act, to be honest.
Right.
Maybe it is that. You're right. You touched on a good point. Maybe it is escaping away from frameworks and logical reasoning to something that I can just do whatever. Nobody can tell me what's wrong or what's right because it's just my world, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, that is the beauty of it for sure. But at the same time is being like, there are multiple reasons of why, for example, I want to go into fashion, but it's not necessarily escape. It's necessarily to create the impact that I want in a specific industry, just like how I wanted to come into banking. Moving away from retail, I want to be able to go into fashion and do something. But something that I personally am dealing with is one of my resolutions and challenges is to be able to focus, you know, because you could pick up so many, you know, in Iranian we say you can pick up so many watermelons and none of them will get to the destination because you'll end up, you know, throwing them all down. You got to focus. You got to put the 10,000 hours in, and I'm in that journey, and I'm trying to build my 10,000 hours in whatever field that I'm working on.
You actually touched on something that like triggers a lot of different thoughts in my mind. That's focus, like really focus, and that's something that I am currently not good at, and for multiple reasons. Whether it's different distractions with the people around me, the technology around me, you know. And I think that one of the biggest barriers to my progress in whatever field that I want to get into, right, is this ability to be able to sit down and, like you said, you know, focus, not necessarily 10,000 hours, but, you know, obviously being able to synthesize information and discipline yourself enough to be able to absorb knowledge and act on it. So you said focus. Do you have any sort of, I wouldn't say roadmap, but like mental model around how we can increase our focus in a day and age where we're always bombarded by so many different things, whether it's coming from people or from technology or just so many things, right? So what's your mental model around dealing with that and, you know, being laser focused on some of the things that you want to do personally to progress?
Yeah, I mean, I'm in that journey too. I'm still finding answers, but one of the ways, I mean, at the end of the day, you got to change your perspective. Not change, or at least look at things, try to look at things differently, basically outside the box. At the end of the day, us humans as an individual, we're a being in space and time, and all you got right now is the time that you have. So everything starts with time allocation. You know, it's before capital allocation, before everything else, it's time allocation. You got this bunch of time that you have. It's limited. You know it's limited. And you have to think about how I'm going to allocate time, because these times that I allocate will need to later on give me returns, basically, return on investment. And the only way that you can actually accomplish things or achievements or whatever you want to accomplish is when you allocate the correct amount of time to that in a consistent manner, appropriately and adequately, not too much, not too less. So the best you can do is what, like Jordan Peterson, for example, says, like, you got to be able to build a schedule, a timetable, you know, like, I try my best. It's hard. I know it sounds cheesy when I say it. It's hard, but like, you know, you got to wake up in the morning, you know, I'm going to work this much, then I'm going to do this, then I'm going to do that. And then you repeat and you repeat and you repeat. And I noticed that in working out more, because I was not a consistent person in workout and I would never really see any benefits. But the moment where I started to create a calendar, or basically the program that I am working on has a calendar, and now I can see consistent results because I applied consistency to force and attention, you know? So you have force, you have attention, you apply consistency to it, then you see results, basically. And yeah, so being able to allocate your time efficiently, as cheesy as it sounds, but that's just the key. The reason it's cheesy is because it's the truth, and you can't not get away with it.
Yeah, consistency, that's a good point too. I forgot this Chinese expression or whatever. It was saying that if you drop a bucket of water on a rock, nothing is going to happen to the rock. But if you keep dropping one drop a day over a long period of time, it's going to make a hole or a dent in that rock. So consistency.
Yeah, sorry to jump in your words. The expression is something like that. I think it says the sea or whatever, the earth doesn't dig through the stone by crushing it, it will dig through the stone through patience and gradual raining.
Yeah,
basically.
Yeah, that's and that's powerful. That's consistency is powerful, and like you said, you're on that journey as well, and I'm on a similar path where I'm trying to figure out how I can best allocate my time to certain things. But there is so many different options and so many different things that actually time management is not a thing anymore. It's attention management. And if you can manage your attention, that's very powerful. That's something that I'm trying to work on. And the challenge comes in where there's so many options available and you're like, should I do this? Should I do that? But at the end of the day, we always talk about it. It's execution. So you can have 1,000 different ideas. If you don't execute on them, they're going to remain as ideas. And you're one of those guys who's started executing on some of those ideas that you have, right? What do you think about prompt execution and kind of this agile method of doing, failing, learning, and keep on going? Do you think that works for you?
Yeah, like a wise man once said, just making it sound fancy, it's just one of my friends, the CEO. He said, your power is not summarized in your ideas, but in your execution, basically. Your ideas can be anything. Look at Shark Tank. Look at how rudimentary and basic many of their ideas is, but it's $1 million idea because they've executed it at that level and they've been able to achieve the full potential of their idea. So that's something that doesn't get mentioned because people are so focused on not failing that they don't even try. You know, like the first time I painted my first painting, you've seen it before. You remember how few of my friends, they were like, man, why are you trying to force this habit? Why are you trying to paint? You're not going to be Picasso or something like that. And I'm not saying I'm not going to be Picasso.
Those are like one of the worst types of people who shoot down an idea before it's even born. Yeah,
because at the end of the day, even if I fail, at least I did something. At least now I've added something in my head that I was never there before. And who cares about failure? People need to understand that nobody cares. Nobody cares about them. Like nobody thinks on their couch thinking why they're doing what they're doing. It's a very moment in time that I would see something, I would take a glimpse of something, and I would give some sort of a comment to the person who's done it. People shouldn't take that comment into their heart. You should always listen to feedback and critique, but you shouldn't let it affect you. You should hear it, but not affect you. It's a different thing because people get affected. When you get affected, you're in control. You're no more in control of your own life. You're in control. Everybody else is in control because they know they can change your behavior based on what they say, what they do, and how they're going to be able to react to you. So you should just hear things. You should acknowledge them and understand where they're coming from and still be who you are. And if you want to go painting, go continue painting. If not, then go do something else. And there's nothing wrong with trying. And I think this is coming more now with how Instagram is changing its culture. Like it used to be a worse app. Now it's a bit more, I guess, businessy oriented, idea or creative oriented. Like people are changing. And by the way, Instagram ruined many people's mindsets over the past 10 years. And I think I should say this now that I have some sort of a tribune. It ruined many people's mindsets. It ruined the way they approach things in life based on attention. Because it created attention-oriented people, not impact-oriented people, not productive, not executionaries. It created the idea of seeking attention for dopamine, not doing something interesting actually, but just being able to look cool. To people put more effort into editing their photos on Instagram than actually doing something with their actual real life, than actually like fixing the dishwasher or like doing something actually real. But they would sit down, spend 20 minutes photoshopping a photo to put on Instagram to not be themselves. Like this is like, and this is basically attacking the lowest common denominator of humanity, you know, taking the worst out of them and putting it and facing them each other, and, you know, and creating confusion, anxiety, and, you know, basically a facade.
And this is the worst output. and this is the worst output that we could have gotten out of the internet as like that infrastructure, right? Because we go back to our earlier conversation that we can use the internet as a tool to make so much progress, but then this itself, this output, this is not good, right? People focusing their attention on things that don't even matter, like you said, and so many other things. Like, things don't matter. Like, you're gonna die tomorrow. No one is really gonna care about that quote that you put on Instagram or what someone else said about it or whatever, right? And no, man, you absolutely got a point. That's something that is going to keep increasing, but people are more conscious of it now. People are starting to become more conscious of the fact that it doesn't matter. This sort of attention, this sort of dopamine game or high that you get, that doesn't matter, right? That's a very good point. So you were talking. What were you talking about?
I forgot, man.
Yeah.
Like Instagram and how it makes people look at things with a filter.
Okay, and just going back to social media and the effects that it has had. I mean, personally, one of the reasons why I closed down Instagram is one reason is because of that. The second reason, what?
Deactivated it, yeah.
Yeah, I deactivated it. Obviously,
I'm close to doing that.
Man, you should try it, like, for some time. Do it for a month or 2 months. See how it feels. You know, just do it. See how it feels. Like Kanye says. Like, just go ahead with it. And I still have Facebook, but really, what I've been trying to do, and you're aware of this, is consciously trying to remove all of these dopamine triggers that just give me fake highs. In many other fields as well. But so yeah, I think that's really cool. Try it out. And by the way, where are you really going with this? Do you have a vision, or do you create a vision for your five year from now self, or do you think that life is too unpredictable to be able to map it out to the next 5-10 years, or maybe like 1 year is reasonable time frame to forecast things? What do you think of that?
Like, I have some visions of where I'm gonna be, but I don't fall in love with my visions, because it can backfire, because vision is something and strategy and technique is something else. Like what Bezos says, you got to be hard on the vision, but you got to be flexible on the tactics and strategies. I have some sort of vision of who I will be as a person. People's vision something like, oh, I'm going to have a Tesla, or I'm going to have a mansion, or I'm going to do that. These are not visions. These are like you're just collecting stuff in the next 5 years. Is that what you think? That's not the vision. Like, I have some visions of who I'll be as a person. And in order to achieve that, I look at things in the now. It's what's happening now. And I try my best. Again, I'm also struggling. I have high anxiety, and I always overthink stuff and things like that. And I understand if anyone else is dealing with the same thing. I go through it every day. But you try your best to take things today. What's happening today? And your life is like that Black Mirror episode, you know, the one that you can choose what to do next. I don't know if anyone has seen it. Exactly. Like, you take it day by day. You're like, should I do this? Sure. Should I not do that? Sure. You know what I mean? And that will probably help you to be more of who you are, or what you want to be in the next 5 to 10 years. And I have some visions, but it's not something that I can like, be like, yeah, I'm going to be that, or I'm going to be this or that. It's just exploring more of it, because at the end of the day, I'm 25, and this is the age where I need to explore and travel paths that are not traveled. I got this from Bezos. It's not mine. But yeah, like speaking of Bezos, he has a very interesting saying. He's like, I regret the untraveled paths more than the badly traveled paths. And I think that's something everybody needs to know. Not doing things going to be your biggest regret when you end up becoming 40 or 50 or whatever, because you're not going to have as much window of opportunity, because you're not as attractive in society, pretty much. And by that time, if you don't have some sort of an expertise, it's going to be very hard. And something which is important that I'm struggling only way you're able to do many other things is when you have expertise in at least one thing. That's when people will have respect for you. At least that's the way the structure is. So building an expertise is very important to whoever that wants to do many things like me. We all need to understand that you need to at least have expertise in something. You need to show that you've proven to be good at least one thing really good. Then the trust with other things comes at it. And if you look at it, every great person that you know started with one thing, and then later on they start exploring many other fields that they wanted to do. This is a struggle, by the way, because with the amount of information that you have, with the amount of things that you can constantly do, it's going to be hard to focus on at least one thing. It's a big commitment, but it's necessary.
Again, it goes back to attention management, and it's hard because then you're like, I'm focusing and putting my time and energy in this while I can be doing 1,000 other things. So the opportunity cost is those 1,000 other things, right?
Exactly. Yeah,
so
exactly.
To your point is that we need to be specialized in at least one thing so that we can have the voice to explore other areas as well, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think so. I think that would be the ideal way.
Okay, interesting. Well, look, we're at the 34-minute mark now. Maybe we can put a nice tie on this and wrap it up. But if you have any closing remarks, anything that you want to talk about, it's all yours.
Not really in my head. I think it's a good thing that you're doing. I think it's very necessary for people to hear everyone's voice, because when you have the platform, why not listen to everybody? Why only listen to a very limited amount of people on the internet who's got everyone's attention, I think that's cool. I don't have anything to say, and I'm not gonna finish my sentence like Michelangelo.
All right, man. I appreciate your time and your thoughts. We'll probably circle back and do more of these, but thanks for joining, man.
Thank you.